It doesn't matter if you're Apple, it doesn't matter if you're Google or Microsoft. I don't give a shit. If you waste my time, you definitely have to pay. Today, I will be doing more of a story time rather than me just reading you the brochure, right? I'm trying to tell you about how I made Apple pay for wasting my time. This is going to be a story mode, and I'm not going to obviously highlight what I want the lesson to be. And this would definitely be more of a benefit to all the youngins out there, especially, those that might actually struggle with valuing things, for example, like valuing their own time or just valuing themselves in general. And I actually struggle with this a lot, especially in the early days when I just came to the United States. I was 16 at the time, and I mean, one key thing that I saw that surprised me the most was seeing that, like, when you get a new job in the United States, right, like these companies would literally pay you, you know, oftentimes for months without you actually doing a lot of work, right? It's called training. Like, you'll be in training for months. Sometimes you can be in training for like 1 to 3 months. And like just seeing that, of course, with people around me, it was extremely strange. Me just being like a new like I fresh off the boat, just got here from Nigeria. And right, so I really struggled with a sense of value, especially when it comes to what value I can be bringing to the table and a team, or when it comes to the nation in general. And of course, the difference in currency would also often like play a major part in that as well. Because of course, I mean, I'm not sure for people that actually migrated from different countries. I'm sure you had those times in the early days when you're trying to value something that you're taking a look at. Maybe let's say you're trying to buy something at the store and you really don't know if this is expensive, right? So you often find yourself pulling out your phone and going to the calculator app and like trying to quickly do the multiplication, the ratio, and trying to basically like trying to convert that amount to like your local currency in like the country you moved from. So I mean, I definitely also struggle with that for a while. But of course, these things actually take some time to correct, and hopefully it doesn't take too long for you. And if you're also out there and watching this and you probably just moved here to the United States from another country, maybe you're here as a student, or like you actually moved here completely, well, I want to give you an assignment to making sure you fix that as soon as possible, because the sooner the better, right? All right, so I mean, back to the main reason why we're here. I'm trying to tell you about how I made Apple pay for wasting my time. And this is literally something that happened over me ordering a Mac Mini, right? So so right, and talking about the Mac Mini, this is the M4 Mac Mini to be specific. And the only reason why this actually happened is because I made more of a custom order. And by that, like, I'm not saying, oh, like I was trying to have my name engraved on a M4 Mac Mini. Absolutely not. Right. So this is because I actually spec bumped my Mac Mini order to 32 gigabytes of RAM. And of course, if you're out there asking if you need more than the base 16 gigabytes of RAM, for example, on the Mac Mini or even any Apple device, if you're asking that question, maybe you don't actually need it. Because trust me, if you do need more RAM, you're going to know. Because obviously, like right now, I do have a PC. Well, it's more of a laptop. However, I upgraded the RAM from 12 to 32 gigabytes of RAM because I could upgrade it myself. So I definitely did that. And of course, like when I take a look at Task Manager, when I'm currently, running, for example, just one Docker container, which I'm using for like local database. So just that, and for sometimes I might also be running like an Android emulation, which is literally a device that can take up to like 8 gigabytes of RAM. So I just put all those things together and slap on about 15 Chrome tabs, and yeah, like like this RAM actually, goes up so fast. All right, so that was the reason behind me actually specking this Mac Mini up to 32 gigabytes of RAM. And then, I mean, over the course of, me making the order and then me getting like a tracking number, I was able to actually highlight that this order was actually coming from China, which was fine. And at some point, I was actually excited that, oh, wow, I'm thankful I was able to get this order in before Trump made the post about the 100% tariff, to China and stuff like that. But yeah, fast forward to, or let me, kind of like give a quick high level timeline on everything that happened and how I planned this ahead of time. Because, hey, if you don't know, I am a chess player. And in chess, you do have to think ahead and plan things out. You have to anticipate your opponent's moves. You need to have prophylaxis. So all these things, right? So I'm here, thinking about how I can actually make Apple Pay before they even knew I had anything, I had any sort of plan. So I made this order on the 27th of September 2025, and then I got charged on the 29th. So, it took Apple about 2 days to, put things together to actually charge me, right? So I got charged, $942, which of course, you can tell like that is much more expensive than the base Mac Mini. Immediately I got charged, I got an email telling me like my order has been processed, right? My order has been processed, it's gonna get shipped soon. And then in that same email, like Apple was saying, like once my order is shipped, they're going to, send me an update, which is cool. And then shortly after, I got another email, within, the next 24 hours. So I got an email telling me that my order has been shipped. And in that very email, it was highlighted by Apple that this order is expected to get delivered on the 6th of October, which is about a week from when I got charged, right? Which is fine. Of course, international delivery, you can make that happen in like a week, or if that's high priority delivery. So 6th of October went by. I did my tracking, figured it was at some point, maybe it was at Alaska, but it still wasn't even close to where I am right now, which I currently live in Grand Forks, North Dakota. And so at that point, after the 6th, between like the 7, 8, 9, 10, I was able to see that, okay, Apple is saying this order will be delivered between the 13th of October and the 15th. So, okay, I kept that in mind. And then I was obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I was really, really impatient because I actually needed this Mac Mini for a project, like a software development project I was working on with my startup, Dollarknight. If you don't know what Dollarknight is, it's basically a budgeting app. It's basically a budgeting app on autopilot. And by that, I mean, yes, you don't have to do all that manual tracking on your Excel. You can have one app that does all that for you. So if you do want to know more about Dollarknight, I'm going to leave a link down below in the description so you can check Dollarknight out. All right, back to the story. So, so I was definitely impatient and I wanted to know like where this order is. So I was checking this order every day. So as at the 7th of October, that was the last day there was an update on this tracking. And at that point, I could see that, oh, it made it to somewhere in some Anchorage place. And let me quickly actually look up where Anchorage is. Right, so yeah, I mean, Anchorage is a city in Alaska. So yeah, at that point I was able to see like it made it to Alaska, which I also mentioned earlier. And then I watched it for a couple more days and I knew like, yeah, this is probably not gonna make it with between the 13 and 15, which is when I started to, I started to plot, right? So I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. It says it's gonna get delivered between the 13th and the 15th. So I'm gonna call Apple on the 13th, tell them about my pain points, which is I actually need this Mac Mini for a actual software development project. I needed it for the iOS build, right? Because Dollarknight is building a mobile app for iOS and Android. So I need a Mac to run the to run Xcode to be able to sign the deployment, right? So I explained everything in detail. I explained what my pain point was and what the cost of not getting this Mac Mini on time would have on my personal reputation and my business and to my customers. So, three things. All right. So I said all that, and I actually told the agent I spoke to, like, can you please make a note on my account, about this call and what I need, because if the Mac Mini doesn't get delivered on the 15th, I'm going to be making another call. So I basically, yes, I told Apple, take a note. I'm gonna be back because I know it doesn't look like this is gonna get delivered on time. So of course, and as you're probably guessing, fast forward to 17th, right? Which is like fast forward to the 16th, right? Which is a day after the 15th, which was meant to get delivered. It was still not delivered. So I knew what time it was. I picked up my phone. I knew it was time for the last act, right? So yeah, I picked up my phone, and you know what? I actually have another phone that I could use for demonstration here. So why not? So yeah, I picked up my phone. I was like, hey, Apple, whatever agent I'm talking to. Of course, I see you as an extension of Apple, right? Like your Apple and stuff. So again, I, I hope you can see the notes on my account. So I basically needed this Mac Mini for the software development project, and this is actually a waste of time for me. Like I put in this order literally since the ending of last month. I still don't have it. I called a couple of days earlier, and I knew this was probably gonna happen. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm requesting a compensation for what this is costing me, and like I will want some form of compensation. You know, like we could probably do like a maybe a credit that I could use, or maybe a additional refund, but at some level, or at some type of, or in some type of way, shape, or form. Like how should I be expecting compensation for what this is costing me? She was like, oh, oh, we can't really do that. And I stood my ground because I knew I was getting something out of this. And then she offered me $50 of credit on Apple.com that I could use to get, anything I want on Apple.com for $50 cheaper, obviously. And then I thought about it for a second, right? $50 for credit. I mean, yeah, this is something, but like this is definitely not enough. So okay, yeah, back to the phone call. All right. So I was like, okay, yeah. I hear you're offering $50 of credit. That's a start, and I do appreciate that. However, I think that is far from what this is going to be costing me and my business, right? Because it's going to make it almost impossible for me to meet up with my deadline of shipping these apps by Monday, which was when we need to have the apps on the App Store, at least waiting for review. So I was like, okay, why don't we make that $50 credit? Why don't we make that $100? And I think it's gonna be a better compensation, or a better yeah, have a better compensation for what Apple is costing me due to this very very late delivery. And then she went on and for a little bit saying well, I'm not sure if we can do that, but I might need to get approval for that. And then she literally went for about 1 or 2 minutes and she got the approval she needed for the $100. And after that, it made me feel like, damn, I might have asked for $200 and probably would have gotten 150, right? So it's like it felt like one of those deals when the other party like agreed so soon, and then now you're thinking like, did I fuck up? But still, did I fuck up still? I don't know. You let me know what you think. So now that I have $100 credit on Apple.com that I could use on any product, I could literally go back and buy the same Mac Mini, but for another $100 cheaper, guys. Like, damn. Honestly, nah. I feel like I've been plotting too much, man. But like, this wasn't even the plan. Like, obviously, the Mac Mini was worth the amount that I got charged. I obviously paid that. I mean, I'm still waiting for a refund, but I know that it's gonna come in. Yeah. However, it took me knowing what this was costing me and the value I was trying to deliver that this late order or this late delivery was having to or bringing to the table. But yeah, as I learned from my mentor, if you waste my time, you definitely have to pay. So it doesn't matter if you're Apple, it doesn't matter if you're Google or Microsoft. I don't give a shit. You're definitely going to pay. So I have my mentor to thank for that. Well, that's my story of how I made Apple pay for wasting my time. I hope you learned something. I'm not going to tell you what I think or what I hope you learned. Again, Not So Young Oji here, signing out, and I'll see you in the next one.